Hello, my name's Ellen and welcome to the fourth and last video in this archaeology series. In this short presentation I'm just going to discuss a few case studies on Anglo-Saxon burials and logboats. So to give a bit of background, the Anglo-Saxons were settlers from the German regions of Angern and Saxony who came over to Britain after the fall of the Roman Empire at around 410 AD. They were here for about 6 centuries after the fall of the Roman Empire, bringing their own set of beliefs and rituals. Although it is suggested that they began their settlements before the Romans departed, they faced very little opposition on their arrival. By 650 AD, they had split the country into 7 different kingdoms. This shows the divide that the Anglo-Saxons had between one another. In 590 AD, the country was mostly converted to Christianity. As a result, the burial practices and beliefs were being influenced by the new religion, causing new mortuary practices for the Anglo-Saxons. Archaeological studies and excavations show diversity in the Anglo-Saxon burial practices around the United Kingdom as time progressed, showing that burial practices were drawn from personal belief but also traditions amongst the region. There are variations in the types of burial practices and methods used across the Anglo-Saxon period, but most commonly being cremation and inhumations, cremation being the burning of the body and inhumation being the burying of the body in the ground. Cremation is the earliest type of burial practice used by the Anglo-Saxons, appearing first at about 550 AD. Although both cremation and inhumation were used as burial practices at the same time, they vary across the 7 regions. The cemeteries were very rarely organised in rows, and burials were often singular bodies, although sometimes they could have multiple in the same burial. It is likely that grave goods was an expectation in the custom and religion, and often the grave goods reflect the wealth, the status and gender of the deceased. Other types of burials seen across this period are princely burials and deviant burials. Princely burials being large-scale cremation or inhumation burials, frequently located under mounds. Whereas deviant burials, or also known as execution or battlefield burials, have little or no grave goods, corpse body position often found in unnatural positions, indicating abuse and human sacrifice. In light of the topic of the diversity of burial practices during the Anglo-Saxon period, the find of unusual inhumations are come across by archaeologists over the years. Deviant burials are rarely found, so their examination is important to bring light to the darker side of the Anglo-Saxon period. There is an example of an unusual burial in Norton-on-Tees in a pagan Anglo-Saxon cemetery. The cemetery was in use between 550 AD and 650 AD, and it is likely that it was used by generations of families during this time. The position of this burial in particular seems contorted and lay in the prone, face-down position, suggesting a live burial or that the individual was killed graveside and carelessly thrown in. It would seem that the individual had their hands and feet tied together by a rope or some other material, suggesting that they were a prisoner. And a sheer lack of respect for this individual is also shown as a look to have been thrown in. There are a number of possibilities which could explain why, for example as a punishment for a crime or for a religious sacrifice. Only a small proportion of prone and unusual burials were found across this site amongst 120 burials excavated here. Sutton Hoo is an Anglo-Saxon princely mound burial found in Suffolk, discovered in 1939 by Basil Brown. The excavation carried out is on the largest of the burial mounds found on the estate, uncovered the ghostly imprint of an oak 27-metre long ship. Unfortunately, the wood was not preserved due to the acidic quality of the soil, however the imprint of the ship was preserved. The burial is clearly one made for someone of high status, which is also suggested by the large amount of grave goods found within the burial mound, including bronze bowls, silver dishes, 2 silver spoons, and an ornate iron helmet, and many other goods. But what does Sutton Hoo tell us about the Anglo-Saxon society? Firstly, the 27-metre long ship would have had to have been dragged by a large workforce to the burial site, which suggests that the character was well loved and respected. And the inclusion of wealthy grave goods suggests the high status of the buried individual, and the grave goods reflect and suggest a male burial. For example, in the burial, a sword, shield, and helmet was found. The inclusion of grave goods show the affection and respect for the deceased, but it could also be an act of mourning, an act of giving them what they might need in the afterlife, representing the customer as part of religious beliefs in the Anglo-Saxon age. Just a small other case study is on log boats. So firstly, what is a log boat? Log boats is considered the earliest shape of a modern boat, and they have been documented consecutively in Europe for over 8,000 years, and there are many different variations. It was clear to us as archaeologists that log boats were invented and created as a result of a need to resolve a problem. For example, the need to cross a river, gain access to resources, or just general transportation. A variety of similarly built log boats can be found across Europe, being it across the British Isles through to Scandinavia. This shows that not only is the log boat probably the oldest piece of technology in the world, but also that they are not pinpointed to a singular region, meaning that they were a widespread and still used piece of technology today. An example of a log boat is the Pesse log boat, and it was found in a waterway in the Netherlands in 1955. It is the oldest log boat found in the world, dated to have been made about 10,000 years ago, made from Scotch pine log which had been dug out, measuring 3 metres long and 44 centimetres wide. At a length of 3 metres, it is considered to have been suitable for both hunting and fishing, and the transportation of people. The Poole logboat is another example of a logboat found in the southwest of England. It was discovered in 1964. It's a 10-metre long oak trunk carved into the shape of a boat, and it's the longest boat found in southern Britain. Radiocarbon dating on the Poole log has dated the oak to 2695 BC, which is unusual as there's very little surviving evidence of log boats being used at this time. Research after the Poole log boat discovery in 1964 shows that Green Island, where it was found, was an international Iron Age trading port. The Poole log boat is believed to be a trade transporting vessel, as its structure would not suffice for deep water transportation. It is believed to have been capable of transporting up to 18 people, so it could have been used to transport people from the bigger ships and vessels to the harbour for trade. This is the end of this presentation, and I hope it has, and this series, and I hope it has given good insight and a good introduction into the study of archaeology.